Record crowds for women's hockey. The Leafs' deadline math gets murkier, and Canada weighs soldiers in Greenland as tariff threats rattle allies. This is your Monday, January 19 update from Toronto. Quick Toronto weather. High near -5 degrees Celsius, low near -14 degrees Celsius, with light snow at times today. Let's start on Bay Street's favorite barometer, the Leafs odds. The tenor around the NHL trade deadline feels different this year. Toronto's once comfortable playoff cushion has thinned, and betting markets have cooled on their chances. That shift is forcing a rethink inside Leafs Nation. One bright spot: Dennis Hildeby's emergence has added needed goaltending depth. If he continues to look the part, it could allow the front office to trade from a position of relative strength in net instead of desperation. But with only a limited slate of games before the deadline, the runway to evaluate and act is short. In past years, the Leafs were clear buyers, nudging in pieces to boost already high odds. This season, the calculus might be more surgical, addressing specific needs without mortgaging too much, or even weighing hockey trades that rebalance the roster. Not just rentals. As always, the crowd at Scotiabank Arena tells the tale. Impatience when chances are squandered, bursts of relief when the dam holds. The margin for error is slimmer, and reactions are sharper, because the stakes feel higher. A banner night for the women's game south of the border. The New York Sirens edged Montreal Victoire 2-1 at Washington's Capital One Arena, in front of 17,228 fans, the largest U.S. crowd ever for a professional women's hockey league game. Beyond the scoreline, that attendance milestone is a statement. It signals real momentum for the league, including here in Toronto, as demand grows for top-tier women's hockey on big stages. On the international stage, the U.S. took gold at the U18 Women's World Championship with a 2-0 win over Canada, snapping Canada's unbeaten run and handing them another silver. American goaltender Bianca Baratieri stopped all 38 shots for the shutout, while Emily Pohl and Lindsay Steknowski provided the goals, both set up by Tala Hansen. Analysts noted this was a perfect gold for Team USA. They never trailed all tournament, and were never tied after 0-0. For Canada, it's a tough pill and a familiar one at this level, but the pathway is still strong. The rivalry is alive and well, and the next cohort will get another crack. Sticking with Canada on the pitch, the men's national team beat Guatemala 1-0 in a friendly. Jason Russell-Rowe with the winner from a Malik Henry assist. It wasn't during a FIFA window, so no ranking or cap implications, but Canada controlled 57% possession and led the shot count, the kind of professional tune-up you want early in the year. Now to a fast-evolving geopolitical story with direct Canadian implications. Prime Minister Mark Carney is weighing whether to send Canadian soldiers to Greenland for Danish-led exercises alongside NATO partners. The backdrop: U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened tariffs on several European allies, starting at 10% on February 1st and rising to 25% by June 1st if the U.S. is not allowed to purchase Greenland. Denmark has pushed back firmly, with plans to bolster security in Greenland. Canada and European countries have reiterated support for Danish sovereignty, and Ottawa is voicing concern about escalation, urging respect for territorial integrity. Reports also describe apprehension in Ottawa about potential backlash from Washington if Canadian troops join the Greenland exercises. The European Union is sketching potential responses, and markets have seen some jitters on the headlines. Big picture: beyond tariffs and troop movements, the Arctic's strategic value is climbing as climate change reshapes sea routes and resources, making careful diplomacy more important. The cross-border economic friction doesn't end there. Trade talk between Ottawa and Washington is strained. President Trump has sent mixed messages, dismissing the need for Canadian products at times while pressing Canada for concessions on files like dairy, border security, drug trafficking, and defense spending. Renewals or updates to CUSMA are reportedly stalled, with Trump calling it irrelevant. That posture has amplified a buy Canadian movement at home. Many consumers want to support domestic producers, but high inflation makes it hard to do so exclusively, creating what some describe as a two-tiered retail economy. Certain Canadian goods benefit, others struggle to compete on price. For Toronto businesses and shoppers alike, it's a moment of tough choices and sharper trade-offs. Amid the noise, there's a notable data point about how Canadians feel about their system. Surveys indicate roughly 70% are satisfied with how democracy works in this country, a figure that's stayed fairly steady over the last 15 years. Trust in core institutions like elections and the Supreme Court has held up, though there's been a modest uptick in distrust of mass media. Internationally, some analyses allege that foreign governments have had more success influencing Washington during the Trump era through financial enticements, investments, or gifts benefiting key figures than through traditional diplomacy. Those claims are contested and continue to be scrutinized, but they underline how global actors may be testing unconventional levers to sway U.S. policy. A quick nod to community and storytelling that ground all this big-picture news. CBC Toronto's To-Do List is a monthly roundup of events and stories around the GTA, a good antidote to winter hibernation and a way to keep plugged into local life. And if you're up the 417 or have friends in the capital, the This is Ottawa podcast drops new episodes every Monday, pairing city issues with personal stories. One highlight from our colleagues, Andrew Stetson's family podcast project, capturing relative stories and unearthing connections he didn't expect. A reminder that the narratives closest to home can be the most revealing. For breaking updates throughout the day, CBC News Network's Natasha Fatah and Wendy Gilmore dig into what's new across platforms. Before we go, 2 quick sports notes. First, the women's game. That 17,000-plus crowd in Washington is the kind of benchmark that, a few years ago, felt aspirational. It's here now, and it's only going to push expectations higher for showcases across North America, Toronto included. Second, Raptors fans. Quieter on the headline front today, but we're tracking roster chatter as the NBA calendar churns. We'll bring you anything meaningful as it breaks. Toronto's in for a chilly one. High near -5 degrees Celsius, low near -14 degrees Celsius, with light snow. The Leafs face a tighter deadline chessboard. Canada's women's U18 takes silver as the U.S. cap a perfect run, and Ottawa weighs Arctic moves while trade and tariff rhetoric heats up. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with more Toronto First updates and the national stories that matter.